The CyberHub Engage podcast is sponsored by CyberHub Summit. CyberHub Summit is hosting an executive retreat summit March 2nd through the 4th in Napa Valley. Apply today at cyberhubsummit.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the CyberHub Engage podcast. I'm your host. My name is James Azar, and I am ecstatic that CyberHub Summit was this week. We had an amazing time at the summit this year, and if you weren't there and you missed it, well, you'll just have to live it through the pictures and some of the promo videos that are going to be published real soon. But I'm joined in our studio today by the keynote speaker for CyberHub Summit, an amazing dude. I've got to spend like the last few days with Menny, and he's just off the chains. By the way, like highest rated, like everyone was like extremely satisfied with you, man. Like you extremely satisfied people.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know how to
answer that one.
How to answer this one?
You can just say, "I'm glad I did that."
I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be Q&A, and then you give me this compliment. I'm not very good with compliments.
Yeah, you kind of got shy like a 12-year-old there for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, Micah, you're going to have to make that one like our intro 1-minute promo to this. Is I made a dark man from Israel blush on our podcast. Menny Barzilay, who was the keynote speaker at CyberHub Summit, a person with a great immense knowledge in cybersecurity. I mean, your keynote was just fascinating.
Thank you so much.
As I started listening to you, and I don't think I told you this while we were talking, so I started listening to you. And at one point, I had to go and grab the panel that was coming up right after you and get those people ready to go so that when you got off, I can get them on stage and we can start our panel. But I brought them all and none of them wanted to leave their seats. So I said, listen, the green room has a TV with audio that shows everything he's doing.
So they said, this guy is making fun of himself. We want to keep on watching that.
No,
like this Israeli guy with this.
Let me tell you something. Typically, when you take speakers, and you know this, you speak in a lot of events, Menny, right? I mean, you take people to the green room. Who's listening to who's speaking? No one. Everyone's talking amongst themselves. I have a picture on LinkedIn, and you can cheap plug here, but LinkedIn, look me up, James Azar, spelled A-Z-A-R, and if you don't know how to spell James, then we shouldn't be connected. I posted a picture, and we'll also, Micah, make sure put it on Twitter. I'll send it to you on the CyberHub Engage, so you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, of our three speakers sitting in the green room. I have this picture, and I tagged you in it. The TV is hanging in the top corner. They're all eyes on that TV. I had to make him turn, and the audio was full blast in the green room listening to you talk.
Amazing. That's a real compliment, actually.
Right. So every other thing that was going on when I brought the panelists backstage to get them ready, there was a conversation happening while someone was talking. It was that moment, that morning, those 15 minutes where these panelists could have created chemistry and spoke a little bit more.
So let me just tell you that I think something magical happened in that summit, in the sense that it was very hard to believe that those people, like the people you invited to this event, didn't know each other. It felt like a group of friends sitting in one room, sharing ideas, sharing insights about the future of cybersecurity. And I was really excited to be able to be part of it. So I think maybe I was when I was standing on the stage, maybe I gave a good keynote, but I think it's not the whole story. The whole story is about the atmosphere you create there in this room.
Well, it was a blast. I mean, I wish we could have had you on for like another hour. It would have taken an hour off my day of being on stage.
No, but you did a great job there.
Thank you.
And you know that. People came to you and told you all the time.
Right.
Like, you're very good in moderating. You feel very comfortable on the stage. And, as like, to me, as a person that gives a lot of talks and visits so many conferences, it's very easy to find people, like to spot if a person feels comfortable and he owns the stage. And you have this ability to own the stage. Whenever you're on the stage, people notice you. And that's very interesting.
And I'm 35 pounds lighter. I mean, if you would have said this to me 4 months ago, I would have been like, of course they notice me. Look at me. I'm a whale, right?
I am the stage.
I am the stage. Today I'm 35 pounds lighter and happier, and today's my cheat day. This is the Friday, so you won't get a chance to vote on this, but I think what's our winning food? Pizza. So I will be enjoying a slice of pizza today. We will post it on our Engage page and Summit page so you can follow us there.
What were the options?
It was pizza and spaghetti.
Oh, wow. That's exciting.
My team was not very creative. Apparently, they were really busy leading up to the summit that no one given.
It was pizza, spaghetti, bibimbap, and
Bibimbap. Why wasn't there bibimbap for people to vote on?
well, I wanted to have fun gifts, and there wasn't any for bibimbap.
So it has to have carbs in it, right? You couldn't have a dessert, chocolate, or something.
No,
like
I can't have sugar because I've been sugar-free for about almost 3 months now.
Amazing.
And if I do, I'll give you a prime example. I was with my daughter, Jasmine, last week in Colorado. And me and her mom have a debate on sugar. Her mom gives her sugar. So, but it's okay. It is what it is. And Jasmine loves Starbucks. And so she wanted me to get her a double chippity chip frappuccino, which is insanely sweet. And she wanted extra whip, extra chocolate syrup. So I grabbed the drink and I'm walking from Starbucks to the car. And I get a little bit of whipped cream and chocolate on my finger. Now, instinctively, without even thinking, what do?
Put it in your mouth.
I lick it. And within minutes, I had a headache.
Oh, my God.
I didn't even think. And then I go, why am I getting a headache? And then I was like, I had that white, little whipped cream thing on my finger. I was like, no. And so I look at Joe. She goes, Dad, what's wrong? And I went, I licked whipped cream and chocolate. She goes, so what? And I'm like, I haven't had sugar for 3 months. The tiniest bit of sugar would I'd be out for a day if I ate sugar.
And it's amazing because there's sugar in so many unpredictable things, like in bread and in yogurt and in French fries, you will find sugar. It's amazing.
Right. Well, carbs become sugars, right? And so, but there's pure sugars, which is, the white stuff, the white cocaine, right? And then there's the sugars that are the body that creates from carbs. And so they have a different impact on the body is what I've been learning through this whole process, right? So refined sugars have a different impact on your body than not refined sugars. And so it's a lot to take in, but my favorite food in the whole wide world is pizza. I love pizza.
Yeah, I can relate to that, actually.
And so I will probably not eat a whole slice today. I may take 1 or 2 bites just for the sake of taste.
Seriously?
I will probably not eat my whole slice because
So
I will be afraid.
Thinking about a whole
I think that I think I would spend the next 2 days in deep sickness. And our mutual friend Avner's daughter Eva has a birthday on Sunday, and there is no way I would miss that precious little girl's birthday because of pizza.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. But we've spoken enough about my weight loss CyberHub Summit, and I want to kind of get into the man of the hour, Menny Barzilay here. You and I have been chatting, but you haven't really properly introduced yourself to our listening audience. Why don't you give them a little? And I want to just say this, Alex Tan, I know you're listening. So and I know you missed Menny's talk because you had to be in Bama. So Menny's going to introduce himself now, and everything you're going to hear here today is a little bits and pieces of what you missed on Wednesday. So Alex, this is a shout out to you, buddy. Okay. Menny, go ahead, man. I had to do it.
No, okay. I have no clue what you're talking about. I'll give you the nickel tour in my life, I think.
You know who Alex is?
Yeah.
Alex sat next to you dinner on Tuesday night.
Yeah. He actually emailed me, and I emailed back, and I feel so productive, and that's amazing. We're gonna might have a WebEx. I don't know. So the thing is, I'll give you, I think, past to present. So I was the Chief Information Security Officer for the technological side of the intelligence services in the Israeli Defense Force. I spent, after spending 7 years in the army, I spent 10 years in the largest banking group in Israel in various positions. My last position there was the head of the IT audit department, and my group was in charge of verifying, I think, everything from hands-on stuff to strategy in the entire group worldwide. I don't know, Singapore, Switzerland, UK, United States, South America, and so on and so forth. Many, many subsidiaries and companies worldwide. leaving the bank after 10 years, I started doing several things. I was involved in starting several companies in the field of cybersecurity, some of which show, I think, some success. Hopefully, it will become a huge success soon. I opened my own cybersecurity services company, the name of which is 42. Do you know why 42 is an important number?
Jackie Robinson?
Nope.
What? Jackie Robinson was 42.
Okay. Perfect.
Do you know who Jackie Robinson is?
No.
First African-American player to play in the Major League Baseball League.
The shirt number was 42. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. There are so many other explanations for why 42 is the number, but some of you already know 42 is from the book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So do you want to hear the short story about?
Yes, of course.
So you have a group of entities living in another planet, and they wake up every morning and they take their kids to school, they go to work, they eat lunch, they go back home, they have dinner. They go to sleep, they wake up the next morning, they are doing the same thing. And then one day they stand up and say, what is the meaning of all of this? Why are we doing the same thing every day? And so they build this huge computer and they ask it, what is the big answer to life, universe, and everything? And the computer says, well, I have the ability to calculate the big answer to life, universe, and everything, but it's going to take 7.5 million years. And they say, well, okay, start. 7.5 million years later, they come back and they're so excited. They're like, oh my God, like, what is big computer? Oh, big computer. Oh, mighty computer. What is the big answer to life, universe, and everything? And the computer says, well, I have the answer, but I feel that if I will give it to you, you might be a little disappointed. And they say, you know what? We were waiting for so long. Just please tell us what is the big answer. The computer says, the big answer to life, universe, and everything is 42. and they look at it and say, what does it mean? Like, what? And the computer goes and says, you know what? In order to understand the big answer to life, universe, and everything, you have to know what is the big question to life, universe, and everything. They ask, okay, big computer, what is the big answer? He says, I have no clue. I'm the computer you build only for the answer. You need to build another computer for the question. So if you're a services company and solutions company, what you're trying to be is you're trying to give all the answers to your customers. This is why 42 makes a lot of sense.
That is a very, very brilliant name.
Thank you. It's also, if you take mathematics, right? So if you connect all the letters together, 42, and Google in Hebrew is actually 42 if you connect them. Never mind. So it has a lot of explanations, but
you've given this a lot of thought.
So no, it's not that I've given it a lot of thought. Is that when I tell people the name of my company, they come with different answers, and I just collected those answers. So many people say it's your age, or they say when you will be 42, you want to be a billionaire. I say it's not my age. It makes no sense to name a company over your age, and then every year you need to change the name of the company. That makes no sense.
Hey guys, we're rebranding to 43.
Yeah, what happened?
Guys, we're rebranding to 44.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not 42 yet, and I hope to be a billionaire when I'll get to 42, but I can promise nothing. So this is 42, and I'm also the CTO of the Cyber Research Center at the Tel Aviv University, which is I think the most interesting place in Israel with regards to academic research.
Right, because and you also host Tel Aviv Cyber Week in June at Tel Aviv University, which is 8,000 delegates, 50 some odd delegations. Yeah. I know my partner Corinne was there this year, and you guys connected there as well. And so
it's an amazing event. We have 8,000 people from over 60 countries arriving in Israel. We have so many state officials coming to Israel, so many delegations. We have 50 events during 5 days. So definitely, and the most amazing thing about this conference is that it's free. You don't need to pay a ticket. So just come to Israel next June 2019.
That costs money, though. Tel Aviv is like the third most expensive city. Tel Aviv is like the third most expensive city in the world.
Yeah, but
it's not Amman.
But it's the number one most fun city in the world.
It is the number one most fun city in the world. Yeah. I mean, there's a song in Hebrew that goes Tel Aviv, ya Habib, Omer Adam.
God.
Yeah. I could sing it here, but I wouldn't do Omer justice. So we'll
let an amazing city.
You guys should Google Omer Adam Tel Aviv, and then
you shouldn't.
You should.
Okay. You should.
I think it's a great song.
Okay, it is. He is a great singer, though.
He is.
Yeah.
He's an awesome singer. Menny, you just gave us so much background, and one of the things that really fascinates me is you do speak in a lot of places, right? And
that's true.
You see trends And there's, every conference you go to, I think a lot of them are always the same thing. They're talking about, the risks, the threats, but no one's really talking about the upcoming trends that are going on. October is, in the United States, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, decreed by, I think it was it Obama or Trump that made this Cybersecurity Awareness Month?
Oh, it was Trump.
It's Trump, right?
Was it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was 45. And so, and part of, we gave out hats at the summit that said "Make Cyber Great Again."
Beautiful hats.
Did you like them? They were pretty cool, right?
I took the white one.
Did you?
Yeah.
There's extra ones here in the office. A few leftovers. You should take a few more. What trends are you seeing in cybersecurity right now that people aren't talking about but really need to start keening in on?
Sometimes people feel that we talk about cybersecurity too much. We have so many people having cybersecurity startups, and we have so many governmental programs, and we have CSI Cyber, and we have Mr. Robots, and everybody talks about cybersecurity. Sometimes we feel that this is too much, but this is far from being true, and this is far from being true. Due to one of the most basic rules in technology, it's actually a basic rule for everything, is that change always equals new opportunities plus new threats. And the thing is that cybersecurity, as innovation, is a two-sided coin. Every new technology creates new problems. And this is a very important concept, because if we believe that the world is becoming more dependent on technology, we have to accept that we're going to see amazing new problems in the cybersecurity world. So let me explain. We're going to a world where we have smart cities, and we will have cybersecurity issues with smart cities, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity issues with artificial intelligence, drones, autonomous cars, biotechnology, wearables. All of those things are going to create amazingly new problems in the cybersecurity world. And one of the things that are happening is that we're digitizing. Yeah,
you got it right the second time.
Okay, we're making a lot of things digital in that sense,
right.
And that means that so many things that currently are not online will become online, and in that moment they will be in a place where cybersecurity issues could affect them. So, for example, doors will become smart doors, and televisions are becoming smart televisions, and tables become smart tables, and shoes become smart shoes, and everything that becomes smart is becoming connected. Everything is going to be connected to the internet, and that means that all of those things can be attacked. So, generally speaking, we are going to a future where the challenges ahead are much, much greater than the challenges that we've already seen. And that was the Orwell saying about what are the trends in cybersecurity. But to be even more specific than that, so I think artificial intelligence and cybersecurity is probably the most exciting thing right now that's going on right now. And let me explain why. Because one of the things that we see in the cybersecurity world, we're seeing incremental change. So as you know, and as most of you know, we have inherent asymmetry in the world of cybersecurity. So it's much easier to be the hacker compared to being the security guy. If you're a hacker, you have to succeed one time. If you're the security guy, you're not allowed to fail. You have to succeed all the time. If you're a hacker, you can attack one point. If you're the security person, you have to secure everything. Hacking is very, very cheap. Security is very, very costly. With hacking, usually one person or a small team of people that can work together. With security, you have to collaborate with the employees, with the management, with the police, with everyone. So it's very hard in that sense. Hacking has no rules. You can do whatever you want. Security, there are so many things you're not allowed to do. And if you will do that, they might even put you in jail. And with so many other things, being a hacker is a much easier job. Now, this inherent asymmetry is a very important aspect. If we're trying to solve to some extent the cybersecurity problems, we have to address this asymmetry. And the problem is that all those amazing things that you see, all of those amazing companies and startups and the experts building things, they represent incremental change. So they do improve the situation, but they don't change the basic and the core way the relationship between the cybersecurity people and the hackers goes. So the asymmetry actually increases as time goes by. And what we're looking for is we're looking for disruption. We're looking for something that will change the rules of this game. And creating disruption in the cybersecurity world is not an easy thing to accomplish. There are ways to do that, and there are various ways to do that, but not a lot of them are being tackled right now. but definitely one of those things that could actually create a disruption in the cybersecurity world that could actually change the way we think about security is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is an amazing thing. It is such an amazing thing that the CEO of Google actually said that it is a more important innovation compared even to electricity, right? Bill Gates says that he doesn't understand how come people sleep well at night while people are working on artificial intelligence. Elon Musk said that this is our biggest existential threat. So, like those leaders, those technology leaders, when they talk about AI, you see that they take it very, very seriously.
Well, didn't Putin say that the next superpower is going to be the one that dominates the AI realm?
Yeah, exactly. Most people agree that the first nation that will have access to real AI systems will be able to actually manipulate everything, starting from elections to financial markets in other countries, decision-making, everything. This is why some claim that all the research surrounding AI should be publicly available to prevent arms race. And I'm one of those that believe in that, because seriously, if one country will have access to AI while other will not have this access, we will have a serious problem. Again, asymmetry between what this country can do compared to what other countries can do.
Do you see this? So real quick, I know you've got a lot more to say on this, and I love it. I want to kind of ask you a question on that, because I think you bring up a very valid point, which is if one country gets its hands on AI, it can really almost dominate the world entirely without even firing a shot.
Yeah, I agree.
And we were talking about cyber warfare between nation states a little bit earlier, and so do you see that? Do you see AI being the tool that is used in that warfare?
So that's a very interesting question, because people don't notice and they tend to forget that right now there's like a super active cyber warfare going on. And some might claim that the word warfare is not the exact description of what's going on, because it's not exactly war. But we have to understand that we have hundreds of thousands of state-sponsored hackers are now engaged in one of the largest campaigns, digital campaigns, or some kind of, state-sponsored campaigns ever made. On the same internet that we use to watch kittens on YouTube, or to buy tickets to movies, or to purchase things from Amazon, on the same internet, we have countries attacking one another. And almost every country has this at least one unit which have like cybersecurity experts, hackers, state-sponsored hackers, and they're doing everything from trying to collect information, homeland security related information or economic related information, trying to attack specific systems, trying to disrupt specific processes in the country, trying to affect specific decision-making processes in the country. And the thing is that there is a reason that people tend to forget about this cybersecurity warfare that's going on right now. While people are hearing this podcast, it's actually right now going on. And the reason is that our brain is not built to deal with cybersecurity threats. Our brain is built to deal with threats like fire and lions and falling down, because those threats can be identified through our senses. We can see them, feel them, smell them, taste them, touch them. But this war, this digital war, has no pictures of crying babies and no bumped cities, no coffee places that have tanks rolling on them or whatever. So it feels like it's not a real war. For us cybersecurity professionals, it's very hard to convince people that the cyber threats are real. Because our brain will not create the same sense of urgency that other regular, much less important threats actually create.
Do you feel we did a tabletop exercise at the summit, right? And Micah produced this great video, and I think one of the things that always stands out is there's key moments in any event, whether it's, in war, it's like you said, the crying babies, when we all see the Syria war and we see that, that kid that washed ashore, that little 3-year-old boy that washed ashore in Syria. I don't care who you were, everyone shed a tear, right?
Yeah.
That's monumental. I think in cyber, it's Richard Smith, the former CEO of Equifax, testifying in Congress. I think that's an iconic image of a cybersecurity breach. I think that has everything in it, right? It's a CEO of a company who's going to resign after his testimony, who just lost his job, and it was due to a cybersecurity breach. You feel like that's still not enough to bring awareness to other executives? You don't feel like that raised the urgency a little bit from a year ago to now?
So definitely those scenarios, those cases where you see a decision maker being fired or have to give a testimony in front of the Congress or something like that, that creates an effect. But this effect is not long lasting. Even the fact of this guy, this kid that got washed out to this, it's not a long lasting effect.
We live in a 24-hour news cycle.
Exactly. So people start to understand the responsibility that they hold. And it's amazing to see that regulators around the world actually shifted the responsibility from the cybersecurity person, the people, the CISO and its team, to the senior management and the board of directors. And I was sitting with one of those regulators in charge of banking regulations, and I told them, you know what, it's nice that you write it in this regulation that the board of directors are in charge of cybersecurity, but we all know that they are not qualified. They are not qualified to make cybersecurity decisions. Because they are not experts in that. And those people, the regulators, told me that if they don't understand cybersecurity enough, they shouldn't be in the board of a bank. And I was amazed by this approach.
But that's a good approach.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a good approach by a regulator,
approach,
right? I mean, I wish more. Can you say where that was?
Yeah, it was actually in Israel.
Right. I mean, not surprising.
Yeah.
Israel's been leading the cybersecurity field for 5-6 years now. I think it's going to, based on what I'm seeing, the innovation out of Israel is going to stay there for another 5-10 years minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no surprise that a regulator in Israel will get that. But to talk to regulators here, I mean, the shift is here. I mean, the CISO is the first person on the chop block when something happens, always.
So, but you would see, like in the Target incident, where hackers hacked them and stole a lot of private information on their customers, the CEO got fired.
Right. They didn't have a chief information security officer. Yeah. So there was the reason the CEO lost his job was because he didn't have a chief information security officer to help him do it.
So to me, the number one thing that we should learn from the Target incident, if you don't want to be in this position, don't name your company Target. It makes no sense. Choose another name, please.
I'm waiting for Walmart to go through a breach because I'm waiting for someone to break their firewall.
Yeah. I don't know. I cannot say anything about Walmart.
What, do you think they've already been breached, Micah?
Yeah, I'm sure.
They just don't know it?
They're such a huge conglomerate, they probably just threw a bunch of money at it.
I think you're going through conspiracy theories, Alex Jones.
Yeah. Okay. Who knows, right? Who knows?
When you talk about that, yesterday you gave a very, very interesting talk on the dark future of privacy. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was riveting. And like I said, when we started, I mean, people just couldn't stop. They just, no one wanted to talk. People wanted to listen because it was very, very interesting. And your presentation, I think, what was it, like 230 slides?
Yeah, in 40 minutes.
In 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. You were running like Speedy Gonzalez. So share with us a little bit. I don't want you to give the whole talk.
Yeah.
But 2 or 3 points on the dark future of privacy in your opinion, because you touched on a few of those yesterday.
Yeah. So the thing is that amazing things happen with privacy. And we had 2013, was the year where the discussion about privacy started. And it was with Edward Snowden and the whole NSA incident. And it seems like in the years after that, to some extent, we reduced the amount of discussion that we had on privacy. But right now, we're going back up. And almost every time they call me on TV to give an interview, it to some extent, it deals with privacy. And there is a combination of several things that happen right now that this combination creates a very, very dangerous future. Now, let me just say that I'm not a privacy freak. I'm not one of those that don't have a Facebook account, Twitter. I have a Facebook account. I have a Twitter account. I have everything. My life is online. But even though I'm not a privacy freak, the things that are going to happen in the next few years are actually very, very, it makes me feel like I should worry. So number one is the technology story. So in order to be able to use privacy to your favor, you have to collect a lot of information on people. And the things that are going to happen in the next few years will allow big data holders like Facebook, Google, and others to collect much more data on people. Why? Because we're moving from a world, one of the things that are happening is that we're moving from a world where everything is always off to everything is always on. Everything is off by default to on by default. Let me explain. Your phone's camera is off by default. Unless you turn it on, it will not take a picture. But all of those new devices, those smart devices, they are on unless you turn them off. So smart watches, they collect information about you all the time. When you sleep, when you wake up, when you have sex, when you go to the restroom, when you eat, whatever you do. Smart shoes, right? They collect information all the time, wherever you go. So those things will always be on. So they will, A, collect much more information, and B, will collect new types of information. So up until now, the digital world, the digital realm did not have information about your sex life, your behavior in the toilet, and whatever it is, right? But now those new devices, they collect new types of information. So we have that. We have devices that collect much more information. We have the sustainable business model of the internet, which is transforming privacy into profit, right? So Facebook is a machine that transforms privacy into profit. Google is a machine that transforms privacy into profit, and so on and so forth. And you add to that something very interesting. You add to that the fact that people have predictable psychological biases. So I'm not sure if you read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He's a Nobel Prize winner.
I have not.
That's a great book, and you should read it. And he talks about the various biases that people have in their brain. And I will give you just one example, and I gave this example yesterday in the conference. So when you go to a restaurant and you get the menu and you see there spaghetti with meatball for $15, now your brain starts to evaluate whether this is a cost-effective deal. So how do you do that? You look on the other dishes in the menu. And the thing is that if you have, I don't know, so this costs $15, and then you have, I don't know, pizza for $20 and hamburger for $22, and you have this very unique salad for $19, you feel that $15 for spaghetti and meatball is a great deal. But if you have the same menu being cooked by the same people, using the same ingredients in a different menu, and this menu have pizza for $12 and hamburger for $9 and so on and so forth, you will feel that $15 for spaghetti and meatball, it's outrageous. It's amazing that they have the nerve to take so much money for this dish. And this amazing thing that happened is that your brain takes irrelevant information in the process of trying to make a decision whether $15 is okay for this dish. Because the price of other dishes in the menu is irrelevant. It doesn't make it okay or not okay. And this is just one of those various biases that people have in their mind. So if we have predictable psychological biases that everyone share, every person on earth have them, and you take the fact that we will be able to collect much more information on people, and the fact that everyone is now connected through those platforms like Facebook and Google, and you have third party that have access almost to people's minds using those platforms, because these people can actually present information through those platforms. Third-party actors can present information to people through those platforms and check their behavior, whether they click or not click, and when they click, what do they do after that? You get this very dangerous scenario of programmable people. So you can actually change the way people think. And that was proven several times in the past. One of the most famous cases is Cambridge Analytica.
Right.
This is a services company that they did mass psychological manipulation as a service. If you would hire this company, they collect information about so many people, and they divide them to by their psychological. They have a unique psychological model. They divide those people to certain psychological types, and then they start to analyze what is the best way to influence a specific person or a specific group of people. And this micro-targeting is amazing. And they say we can actually help you to get elected to whatever you're trying to get elected to. And they can tell you, we can help you do a successful fundraising campaign, because we can identify who are the people that are probably have the greatest chances of actually giving money for your campaign. And we will tell you, we will give you instructions for each person. What is the best way to approach them, whether by phone, by email, by a Facebook message, and what is the wording you should use when you approach them? So this is almost like a manual for people's brain. And to me, and because when someone is doing psychological manipulation on you, you almost never know that. It's very hard to convince you that you made a decision A over decision B because someone made you do that. Because people tend to explain why they made decision A over decision B, even if someone else manipulated them to do that. If you connect all of those things together, you could create a very, very dangerous future in which people or actors that have access to those platforms and information can control the masses. And this is the dark future of privacy in a very short...
It's a very scary thought when you think of how many people who are very easily influenced are online. So you're a sharp guy, and there's a lot of people who are very smart and wise who, aren't easily influenced. But when you think of 90% of the population, when you think of little kids who are online on Facebook at the age of 8, 9, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're on all these things. Their opinions are so easily influenced having this data because you know everything about them.
Yeah, I agree, but I wouldn't agree with the fact that you're saying that because I'm intelligent, if I am, that I cannot be influenced. It's super easy to influence everyone, and you're being influenced. So if you think about that, the whole world of marketing, right, of selling stuff,
is influencing others.
Yeah, it's actually psychological manipulation of people. It's trying to make you make a decision that otherwise you wouldn't make. You need this product. This product is good for you. So right now, the sustainable business model of many things is actually manipulating people's mind to make a decision, usually to purchase something. But it becomes a much more dangerous technique if you have the ability to actually make people make a decision about elections and other things as well.
We started talking about cyber warfare, and I kind of related it to AI, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to cyber warfare than just AI. There's way much more to cyber warfare than AI. And you were talking about this battlefield that's going on right now with hundreds of thousands of people, not one shot being fired, not one soldier in a casket, not one missile, none of the I want to say showmanship things that when you think of a traditional war or a traditional conflict or of an attack. Give you a prime example when Israel targeted that factory in Syria, right? That was storing all these weapons that were heading to Hezbollah. You could see the missiles heading towards Syria. That was on the news. You could see the batteries shooting out missiles, and you can see the explosion. And if you think of the Iraq War or Afghanistan, and you see that same thing. I mean, when stuff goes on at the Gaza border in Israel, you see the same thing. You see the fire, and you go, oh man, that looks really, really bad. And for most Israelis, what happens in Gaza, if you live in Tel Aviv, you don't even, unless you're checking the news like everyone else, you don't really feel it. You kind of a different world. It's very different. And cyber warfare is dangerous because if you don't see the shot, you don't hear the shot, you could be taken offline with no backup.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
Is the next war a cyber war?
The current war is a cyber war. And I think one of the most important rules is to always remember that whatever you think going on it's always much more dangerous than what you think. Much more than what's being published in the news is actually going on. And it's amazing because this is a world where reality is a much more exciting thing than what you would see in science fiction movies. Again, micro-targeting. So everything from, and I'm just talking about possible scenarios. Obviously, I cannot disclose any sensitive information.
Come on, man.
But everything from micro-targeting specific people. So to think about someone getting a medical, like in one of the countries that you consider enemies, someone is getting a medical treatment, and you just change, I don't know, something in their file, and suddenly he gets the wrong drug, and that makes him die within 3-4 years instead of 20-30 years. And then you change it back so nobody would know that something went on, and this is a possible scenario. So we're not just talking about obviously taking down the power plant or taking down banks or taking down the government. We're something, because you can influence the entire politics in a government and in the country just by removing one person from the equation. By just putting the right information in the right place at the right time, you can change so many things. So to me, obviously there is one threat scenario where you take artificial intelligence, you connect it to all of those autonomous drones and robots that you see companies like Boston Dynamics creating, and then you send them to the battlefield. And obviously, no human being could actually win against the war with drones and robots. It will never happen. So there is this really big, really big threat where you have people killing one another. But to me, the much more dangerous scenario is this very, very specific, very micro-targeting based threat where government collect a lot of information, find out what is the best way to achieve what they want in this country, and just do that. And they can do that for an enemy country, they can do it for a country that they consider friend, and they can even do it to their own country. And this is not like a possible future. This is actually something that, to some extent, it happened already now.
That's a scary thought altogether. It's you hear more and more about cyber warfare, right? I mean, I think, in my opinion, someone who's been in Intel, spent most of my early life in the Intel community, cyber is replacing spies almost to the point it's replacing the I still don't think you can replace people in Intel gathering, and I've been given a lot of arguments on that piece, and I go, I get that the next war is going to be very cyber capable, but I think the cyber capabilities are going to be to take down your national infrastructure, to limit communication between, if you're attacking a country like the U.S., you take down communication between the East Coast and West Coast. You can pretty much make inroads. I mean, if you think of Yom Kippur, the War of Yom Kippur, right?
Yeah. 1973.
Right. My dad fought in that war. And so
my dad did as well.
So our dads are about the same age. Hey. One of the big things that my dad talks about is he goes, no one knew what was really going on. You didn't really figure it out because there was no communication. It was Yom Kippur. No one was talking on the phone, right?
Yeah.
No one was listening to the radio. No one had their TV on. The only people that did do that were the Arabs, and it was in fact they that tipped off people that something was going on, because they started celebrating and saying Allahu Akbar and saying we're going to free, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And my dad lived in Tel Aviv. He grew up in Tel Aviv, and they were really close to Yaffo, and they were going to the synagogue in on the border of what is now called that neighborhood where the Tachana is, Neve Tzedek. And he lived right around Neve Tzedek, and he was going to the synagogue, and they were hearing them scream. And when they walked into the synagogue, they were like, "What is going on?" And someone came in and said, "There's Egypt and Syria are attacking Israel."
Yeah.
And and everyone got in their cars and they ran to the and people were all over. I mean, there was a lot of disorganization, but you think they had a 2-3 day head start on that in Israel, and Israel ended up winning that war. And fortunately in Israel we can't afford to lose one, because if we lose one, we're not there anymore.
We won this war, but the price was super high.
The price was very heavy. Every war has a heavy price, right?
But this specific one was heavier than others.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still
lack of information.
The lack of information. I mean, it was when you Monday morning quarterback it, and what I mean by that is when you sit back and you do a debrief of the whole thing. The IDF learned a lot more. It's way more prepared today than it's ever been for those kind of attacks. I mean, people realize today you just can't blindside the IDF, right?
Yeah.
And Israel. But if you think of that in the U.S. nature, right? Think if Yom Kippur was celebrated across this entire vast country, sea to amazing sea, right? Sea to shining sea. And California was offline, New York's offline, Boston, Massachusetts, it's offline, Florida's offline, right? Texas is offline, Oregon, Washington. I mean, people in Kansas wouldn't even know it.
Yeah, I agree. So you're talking about a scenario where the cyber arena is supporting the physical arena, right?
I mean,
so we have warriors fighting on the land, on the sea, on the air, and space, and in cyber. So this is like the main fight is on the physical world and the cybersecurity world. Well, cyber world actually supporting that.
I agree with this though. When you picture a war, if you were a strategic war chief, right? You would take down the national infrastructure. Your soldiers would march in. You wouldn't even get a shot fired. You could take over half the country.
Yeah, I agree.
Because people wouldn't know. And once you take over broadcasting, you're saying, hey, we're your new boss. You're paying us the tax.
Yeah.
Deal with it. We've overthrown your government.
Yeah. So the thing is that I think the threat of taking down communication is something that was being discussed in the past 20, 30 years by various people. And I think this is something that I would imagine the United States is ready for. I don't think it would be very easy for people to take down communication in the United States and in Israel.
I'm not saying in the U.S. or Israel. Yeah. When you look at this, Russia has staged a campaign on the Ukraine where they, for a country, they tested on a country that we all know what they're trying to do, and we kind of see the capability, and we're able to actually plan for it. So the question then becomes. The question then becomes, as you talk about cyber warfare, and the point I was trying to make early on is that you can't really replace intelligence with cyber warfare. I think you still need to have some companies have a cyber intelligence person in there, to gather cyber intelligence, and I love that term personally. I think it's good that people are still realizing that you still need people out there working with the hackers.
Yeah. You have to have multi-channel intelligence. It's not just cyber intelligence. You have to have people. You have to have SIGINT, OSINT, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Signal intelligence, open source intelligence, so on and so forth. Let me pivot a little bit, but this is a very interesting topic, and I want to talk about state-sponsored spies, right? And I've been talking about that in the past few years, since 2014. And the thing is that something very interesting happened. In the past, intelligence agencies were all about collecting and analyzing information. But to some extent, they have changed. And now they became only entities that analyze information. They let someone else do the collection. So, for example, when Edward Snowden published the information about PRISM, the super secret project where the NSA is created a system to connect to the Facebook databases and Microsoft and Apple and other countries. And it was General Keith Alexander, who had the NSA during that time, who tried to explain that this information is being used in order to stop terrorist attacks. And to me, and I was there in the audience where he gave this talk. It was in Black Cat, 2014, and he said, we are using this information to stop terrorist attacks. And for me, what I was thinking is that this is amazing. He actually acknowledges something that was obviously pretty obvious for a lot of people, is that the information that sits inside Facebook and in other companies is actually intelligence. Is valuable intelligence-related information. So Homeland Security agencies can actually use Facebook as a tool to fight terrorism, which is today supposed to be a very common sense thing. Everybody should understand that. But that this also means something very interesting. It means that the NSA, instead of collecting the information, they say to Facebook, you should collect the information, we will just use it. This is number one. Number two, it says that every agency, entity in the world has an incentive to put their hands on the information that sits inside Facebook. And not just Facebook, obviously,
Google,
Amazon, and other not that predictable companies like banks and credit card companies and critical infrastructure companies. Now, there are basically two main ways to access this data that sits inside Facebook. Number one is to have some kind of cyber attack to try to hack into Facebook and collect this information. But number two, which to some extent is a much easier way to go about it, would be to put a state-sponsored spy inside Facebook, which is a very weird concept when you think about it, like a spy, a state-sponsored spy. When we think about spies, we think about James Bond and stuff like that. But you would get like a spy inside a commercial company. But
it's corporate espionage.
Yeah, but it's not. It's homeland espionage inside a corporate company. Like,
right.
The more you think about it, it makes more sense because it's much easier to put a person inside Facebook compared to putting a person inside the NSA. And if someone catch this person, it's much less devastating. Okay, someone worked in Facebook and gave information to the Russians. Okay, well, big deal. And it's actually a cost-effective thing to do. Because if the United States that can choose any source for intelligence puts its time and effort in Facebook and uses this data to promote its own national security agenda, every other country in the world can actually do that. And the Russians want this information, and the Chinese want this information, and the Koreans want this, and the North Koreans want this information, and every other country in the world wants this information. So state-sponsored spies inside commercial companies, this is, I think, a very, very interesting issue. And at some point, we might hear about something like that happening. Or we might not hear about that, but it would.
I think Menny just gave us something here, folks. So, Menny, I know we're getting short on time. So I kind of wanted to ask you one last question here that's of real value for our listeners. And every podcast, I like to kind of share some best practices. And you work with a lot of companies. You have a ton of experience in this. You speak in a lot of conferences. So what are 2 or 3 best practices that you see that you want to see more of, that you feel like would help a CISO in his role or a small business owner even be a bit more secure?
Well, okay, this is a very good question. Let me give you the not so predictable answers, because obviously there are the predictable answers.
Yeah, the cyber hygiene.
You should have this multi-dimensional strategy and so on and so forth. And we could write books on those things, which are, don't get me wrong, are very, very, very important. But you would hear everyone talks about them. Let me give you some things which are not that predictable. Number one, simplify security. Throw away products that you don't actually utilize it. Make everything easier to manage. Use less products, but utilize them more. Prefer products that have easy management system over products that are better at doing whatever they do. Because the more you will simplify security management, A, you will do better security. B, you will have more time to spend on doing other important stuff, because what you have right now
is running your business.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what you have right now is you have systems that required an expert in just managing the system. So you buy a system, now you train someone to be an expert, and the moment this person moves to another position or leaves the company, you have this
gap.
Nobody knows what to do with it, and nobody have the courage to touch it, because this is a very important system and we pay a lot of money for it. So simplify security. And one of the ways to do that is to better utilize cloud solutions. Because even if you sometimes pay with a level of security that you get when you move to the cloud, the fact that it takes down the total cost of ownership of security, worth it. So simplify security. Number two, work with startup companies. Hackers are using cutting-edge technologies. You cannot afford yourself to use only those products that the market has already proved that are working well, and like you have 10,000 other people using them. you should sometimes try and implement cutting-edge security technologies to deal with those cutting-edge hacking technologies. So I know it's not easy sometimes for big enterprise to do that, but you should definitely try and work with startup companies and use those cutting-edge technologies. And the third thing, which is very, very important, learn how to do PR. Learn how to better improve your position, your branding in the company, because branding is an enabler. The more people see you as an expert and they see you as a person that is committed to improve the company and actually contribute to the company, the more people come to you when they have a new project. The more people will ask you questions, the more the employees will be committed to help. Don't be this computers only person. Remember that branding yourself in the company, the cybersecurity world inside the company, is actually an enabler to do better security. So those are just 3 tips I think very important for everyone to know.
First of all, I want to say thank you, because I know you're flying back to Israel tonight. So thanks for coming.
In a few hours.
In a few hours, yeah. Actually. Not in the too far of a future, but I want to say, first of all, I've really enjoyed, I think I can speak on behalf of everyone who was at CyberHub Summit based on some of the post-summit surveys. And I think on behalf of the CyberHub team, including myself, that we really enjoyed, first of all, your keynote, and then second thing, hosting you over the last few days. You are awesome. And if you're listening and you're thinking of a keynote speaker and you want to bring someone to talk to your team of cyber, I would definitely give Menny here a shout out and look him up, because he brings a perspective that's a little fresh and isn't the same thing that you hear everywhere else you go, and it's great, and we hope to have you at more things that we do in the future. I want to say that, number one, and number two, Tel Aviv Cyber Week is when this year?
June, the end of June. I don't remember the specific dates, but it's the
end of June 2019. Yeah. I'll be in touch with Menny. I will probably want to come out there and do a bunch of podcasts and maybe broadcast some stuff live.
Yeah, we would love to have you there.
And kind of talk to some of these. It's a global community at Tel Aviv Cyber Week. I mean, I went to CyberTech last year, and then Karen took your week at Tel Aviv University. And when she came back, she was so excited, and I felt so bad because I went to CyberTech, and I love Jor and Amir, and they do a great job with what they do at CyberTech. Great conference. And they're great people. But Tel Aviv University brings a different approach. It's not the same. It's not a trade show.
Exactly.
It's really a show about innovation. It's a show about
sharing information
and insights and it's global in nature, like CyberTech. And it has amazing speakers, and you moderate the whole damn thing.
So in the past 3 years I did. I don't know, maybe they will ask me again to do it this year, but if not, I will still be very much involved in everything going on there.
That's awesome.
Let me just tell you, I had so much fun in the past few days. Seriously, awesome. I've been to hundreds, maybe thousands of conferences, events around the world. This is one of the best places I've been to. Like in Atlanta, to begin with, everyone is so nice. I don't know what's going on
Southern hospitality.
Yeah, I don't know. Like starting from the people on the plane to the people in the airport. Who would ever hear about airport people being nice? So everything was super nice, but the event was unique in the sense that, and I said it in the beginning of the podcast, in the sense that it feels like friends sitting together and sharing information. And you don't see that in conferences where people don't know each other and they come to the same place, because the discussions were interesting and the insights were interesting. I met so many intelligent people, and you did an amazing job with this conference. And I really hope you will invite me next year.
We'll want to have you at all the conferences coming, because I just think yours, I mean, like I said, having people in a green room not talking and watching a TV and wanting me to turn up the audio because they couldn't hear well enough, because the audio in the green room wasn't as good as it was outside, to me spoke volumes of your keynote. And I have to say that. So I want to wish you, first of all, thank you for joining us on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
If you're listening to the podcast, how can they get a hold of you? Social media? What do you got?
My website, Menny, MENNYB, as in Barzilay, mennyb.com.
mennyb.com. Look him up, Menny Barzilay, on Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
Menny Barzilay on Twitter. MENNY, Barzilay, Barzilay.
Perfect. And Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you can connect with him. You can connect with us, CyberHub Engage, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can follow me personally on Twitter, James_Azar1. Make sure you tune in and catch that video of me eating a few pizza slices today. I think Micah's going to have some aftershots too of like my stomach just completely going from flat to
Perfect.
Awesome. So that's awesome. So we're both tagged in the post on Instagram, so you can follow us from there. I want to thank you for listening to our show today. We love to get feedback. So if you have any feedback, like I said, James_Azar1 on Twitter, tweet at me. Love to hear back from you. Thanks for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world listening to CyberHub Engage, we want to say thank you for listening. Menny, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Micah, who's our production manager, just want to say thanks to Micah, who's a little under the weather, has had a crazy week with the summit and everything else he's doing. So thanks for sticking and toughing through it, Micah. I really do appreciate it. And I want to thank our sponsors. So just please stay tuned. Listen for another 15 seconds to our sponsor message. And we are all set. We'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in. The CyberHub Engage podcast is sponsored by CyberHub Academy. CyberHub Academy are cyber business operation experts, helping any size business operationalize cybersecurity within their organization, whether it be tabletop exercises, security assessments, or building a cybersecurity strategy. For more, go to cyberhubacademy.com.